The following video follows the guidelines of the Fair Use Act. Overlord is property of Kugane Maruyama, Yen Press, Kadokawa, and Studio Madhouse. And all materials such as clips, still images, and characters are property of said studio's creators and are being used only for commentary and review purposes. Please support the official release. And before we continue, consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel to catch more reviews like this one. Hello, and welcome to our 3-episode breakdown. This time we watched the first 3 episodes of Overlord from my personal favorite list. So, with all of the rumors some people have heard about Overlord, what do you guys think of these first 3 episodes?
It's a bit explanation heavy, like very, very heavy-handed with its exposition, but so far, I enjoy the characters I've seen. I'm intrigued to see where the plot's going, and the premise is very interesting for an isekai. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'll admit, I have been kind of oversaturated with the isekai genre. Like, I'm just like, it just seems like it's such a typical weeb genre, like, you know, just like loser in a tracksuit gets teleported to another world, is in a party made up exclusively of attractive ladies. He becomes an amazing, awesome badass. Just, you know, just all that played out bullcrap. And so I was admittedly not really looking forward to this one. Which isn't to say I don't understand why people like the isekai genre, but it's just like, for me personally, blech. But Overlord not only subverted my expectations in a good way, but it also kind of exceeded them, because it was far better than I was expecting it to be. As Iris said, it is a bit heavy on the exposition, but I'll get into more of that when we talk about my first impressions. But overall, I enjoyed what I saw, and it was far better than I was expecting it to be.
And yeah, that's very understandable. Like, I didn't quite notice the explanation heaviness of it, but that's because I didn't stop after the first 3 episodes. I kept going. But when you look at back in just the first 3 episodes, yeah, it does look like they're trying to get everything out of the way. But then I kind of realized that's just kind of how books are in general. Like, whenever you read the first 3 chapters, it's usually them explaining how the world works through the characters in most instances. So since this is a light novel adaptation, it makes sense on why it's so explanation heavy in like the first few episodes. It's like reading the chapters of a book.
Considering the pacing of the episodes, I would probably say those first 3 episodes comprise of like 4 or 5 chapters.
Yeah. So, and the fact that they got that all down in just 3 episodes, it's probably a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
Especially since this is a 13-episode long series.
Wait, season 1's only 13? I thought it was 26.
All of them are only 13.
Whoa! Concise, let's go!
Yeah, they throw a lot of shit at you in 13 seasons, but somehow they still pace it well enough, in a way.
That is the beauty of seasonal anime.
So I definitely get where you're coming from now that I go back and watch that with that mindset, but I'm in agreement with you, Bowtie. Isekai has never caught my interest. The whole harem thing with, like, you know, oh, the guy's a loser, but now he's got all these great powers and shit, like, just out of nowhere. What I like about Overlord is that his powers don't come out of nowhere. He built this character this way because he's in a video game world. So they explain why they're so powerful, because video games, especially depending on the video game you're playing, probably go out of their way to make the player feel powerful if they work hard enough to their level, because that's usually like the satisfying thing for some players. So that's what I like about Overlord a lot, is that, fucking finally, yes, there are some boob jiggles, but not enough to make me go, okay, this is annoying. All right. With that, do you guys want to get to the episode by episode breakdown?
Yeah, I'm down.
Let's do it.
All right. Episode 1, End and Beginning. We open the episode with narration from the main character explaining that in the 2100s, a popular immersive video game called Yggdrasil was at the height of popularity for 12 years. Servers are shutting down, and he laments about the memories he made with his former guild, as he's the only one left. But as the servers close, he finds himself still in the dungeon of his creation, with NPCs coming to life and bowing to his name. Okay, so episode 1. Now, the first episode is never a show's best episode. However, I really like what Overlord did here, personally, for myself.
I think for what it's worth, what it did was fine. It gave necessary exposition that you need to understand what's going on, and it gave a little bit of emotional value to what was happening because of Momonga's musing on my favorite game's ending, all the memories we made.
Speaking as someone who's actually experienced this with people he used to play games with in middle school and stuff, the bit where he's talking with the last member of his guild sitting at that table and he has that whole conversation of, hey, you want to just hang out until the servers crash? And he says, I can't actually, I have work in the morning. I felt that. And because I've been in those exact conversations where you're talking to that person for the last time and you don't even know it.
Well, it's more, he didn't talk to him about it. He waited till he was gone, and then it sounded like he wanted to, but he didn't get the courage. He didn't stop his friend in time, because he left before he could even say any of that.
Yeah, that's true. But even so, it was like one of those memes where it's like, hey man, I have work in the morning. I'll see you tomorrow. Last online 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's that moment in that first scene in which it happens to everybody. You get into like a fandom, be it like a show fandom, a comic book fandom, a video game one, and maybe you do something with it. Like all of us were in the My Little Pony fandom for a while, and we did projects with each other, but then people grow up, people have their dreams come true, as he puts it, and people like start families, and they can't do as much as they used to. And for the record, the whole rules of this guild for the guild Ainzul Gon, as it's called, were that you had to not be a human race or a demi-human, you had to be like a monster race, and that you had to be a productive member of society. So there was a time where they put like their paid time off into this game. They put like their careers and their health on the line for like big events and grinding to get like this amazing staff that they all created together. But then, sometimes real life comes in a little too much. And Hiro, the slime guy that he's talking to, even said that, they're working him so hard that he's too tired. So that's the whole reason why he left so early. He apparently just showed up to say hi, see who showed up, and left. Which, at least he said hi.
Yeah. Better than the other guys.
Oh, definitely. They didn't even show.
Well, given what some of their careers are, from what I read, it's understandable. But I just love that moment in which he slams the desk and he says, "This sucks. We put all of our virtual blood, sweat, and tears. How could they abandon it?" But he says, wait, no, stop it. They didn't. They had other obligations. I can't blame them for choosing real life because he didn't have anybody. Just his guild.
Gaming culture, especially around the MMO space, has become a lot more communal. And hearing that side of like gaming represented in media like this is very nice.
Yeah, it makes you feel at home.
Yeah, they definitely hit a lot on the mark in terms, because you don't even have to be part of gaming culture to understand that sometimes friends just drift apart. Mm-hmm. Like I understand that. Like there were people that we knew that we used to talk to constantly. I used to talk to a lot of people like every day, and then people just get successful or start families, and it happens, and you don't resent them for that, and you just, you find different things.
Yep.
So that's what I really enjoyed that scene. But then, the rest of the episode goes on to, again, more explanation as we see the NPCs, such as Sebis, the butler, and the battle maids, the Pleiades, as they're called. We get to see the great tomb of Nazarick with all the flags of the founders and guild members. And then, of course, we meet the waifu of Overlord, Albedo.
Everyone's favorite character.
She's not my favorite. But I can see why people love her. I'm personally more of a fan of, I like Heinz a lot, but for reasons that we'll get to like a lot later. And I like the scene where he's reading off the names of looking at of the usernames.
That's so fucking accurate because gamers give themselves the dumbest fucking names ever.
Stupid ass usernames is something that is so true to life in gaming spheres. Like, I have literally had to leave matches because I was laughing too hard at people's weird ass names.
Oh man, I just got killed by Butt69.
No, in this one though, you get murdered by somebody named Touch Me. Or Buku Buku Chaguma. Parent on Chino, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
There's a professional Overwatch player whose name, his username is someone. So imagine casting that game. Oh, someone just nicked them all with their ultimate.
It's literally just who's on first, but in the middle of a live Overwatch game.
Even his name, Momonga, it's like, oh god. This is when you could tell that every one of these guild members were huge ass nerds.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were just huge nerds because for anybody who hasn't seen Overlord, in the game you can pick your race, you can pick human race, demi-human, or I think they're called like heteromorphic or something like that. They're the monster races.
Standard MMO fare. Pick your race, pick your class.
And each ones have their like their advantages and disadvantages. Like humans don't get a lot of like cool race abilities, but they can evolve better. Monster races get really cool racial abilities, but people can then kill them for experience. So, and that's what happened to these guys quite a bit. So they decided to like, all right, people like to paint us as the villains. We're going to make an all villain guild and we're just going to go all campy in here.
You know, it's probably nice that like the isekai that you like the most, which is more based on MMOs, because MMOs are the closest gaming space has to D&D, which you understand intimately.
Yeah. So
it's easy for you to understand a lot of these concepts.
Yeah, especially since a lot of them have classes that I recognize.
Because the earliest of all MMOs just literally ripped straight from D&D. And it just kind of got grandfathered in as time went on.
Because for those of you that do not know, Heather is not an avid gamer, at least not in the same vein as Iris and I.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that she knows and understands these concepts, even not having been familiar with video games. Thanks, D&D.
I just like the idea that, you know, these guys, like, all right, we're all monster races. We're just gonna, they just decide to go all out with, yeah, we're the fucking bad guys. We're gonna like use the deepest depravities of our mind to make the most evil NPCs, create this dungeon of like horror and just see who can even try to get to us for the final boss level. Because in their tomb was meant for players to try to invade, and that's why all these NPCs are souped up, and some of them just as powerful as players, because it's meant for people to try to invade each other's dungeons and try to beat them.
And that's why, like, even the maid staff are, like, armed to the teeth and ready to kill.
Yep. But apparently no one ever got that far to the last line of defense. So...
Honestly, this sounds like a campaign Goody would make.
Oh my god, he would. Oh no.
Let's go give him that idea. Give him more fuel to light our fire with.
No, we can never let him watch Overlord. He would like Demi-Urge too much.
Hey, Goody, if you're watching, watch Overlord. It's great.
We're gonna put more wood on our pyre. Let's go.
Yeah.
But we need to talk about what he did
To Albedo. To
be fair, I don't think he ever expected her to come to life.
he was a lonely nerd, and he was just having a bit of fun with changing some parameters, and what he thought were the last moments of the game.
I wish I could condemn it, but speaking as a lonely nerd who's super into like MMOs and D&D and shit, I probably would have done the same thing.
It's I wouldn't even say it's so much scummy as it is kind of like a like it's kind of like the hand gesture of
Like it's not even supposed to be scummy. It's just him having a bit of fun before the end.
Yeah, it's him having a bit of have fun. Like, if anything, he could have done that to any of them that he wanted.
Imagine Sebas.
Oh no.
Someone's probably already written that gay fanfic, and I'm gonna go find it.
I mean, he's got the Silver Fox thing going for him, so...
Also voiced by Ed Blaylock, rest in peace.
Which, I think this is a good time for me to mention. I'm not familiar with a lot of Chris Guerrero's vocal performances. Like, the most I know him from is his performances as Father Maxwell, Cooler, and Dr. Gero in Hellsing and Dragon Ball Z Abridged. He's basically doing his villain voice for all three of those characters with tiny little minor distinctions. Hearing Chris Guerrero talk in a normal voice is weird, man.
I was actually privy to his normal voice because he was actually present for the early Dragon Ball Xenoverse streams.
I didn't watch those, so I was just so used to just hearing his big dramatic villain voice, and I was just used to that. I thought that was just how he talked the whole time for a while, but then I heard his normal voice, and I'm like, wow, this dude is talented. It couldn't be more different.
I do love the dynamic that in his head, and even before he got transported to the new world, he still had his voice, and in his head, it's still his normal voice. But whenever he talks out loud, it's this deep, intimidating voice.
Because the favorite bit of Overlord so far that I have is that he not only has to, like, do Overlordy things, he has to role play as an Overlord.
To give you an insight to the type of gamer I am a role player. Story matters more to me than stats, and how I play my character personality-wise is just as important to me as how powerful they are. So I empathize greatly with all the bits where he has to role play as this big necromantic overlord, because I'm just like, that's me! I'm looking at me!
And every time he has like a freak out, there's like this green energy that calms him down. It's not really explained yet, but a lot of the theories is that there's just like, maybe it's because he set his parameters to like, oh, this is the personality of the character, that like, hey, stop breaking character, stop metagaming, get back into it. So when he fondled her chest, she was able to figure out, oh, okay, so this isn't a game, because this wouldn't be allowed in Yggdrasil. And Albedo, because he changed her settings, is the thirstiest bitch that ever was thirsty. There is a reason why he is called Bone Daddy a lot.
That's Daddy with a capital D, by the way.
Unfortunately, because he is a race that does not desire sex and physically does not have a penis, he is just basically torturing this poor succubus to lust over a man who literally can't give it to her.
I've heard of boners, but this is ridiculous.
Hey, Marks would be proud.
It's just so sad, but it's quite entertaining and a good example of reaping what you sow.
Yeah, it's kind of funny in a darkly hilarious way.
You did this, man. Now you gotta live with it.
Now's a good time for me to mention, by the way, that most of the NPCs that they've created, I'm surprised that they haven't made a gacha game out of Overlord yet, because most of these NPCs feel like they'd be right at home in Genshin Impact.
Bowtie.
What?
There is an Overlord gacha.
Well, shut my mouth then. Never mind.
Overlord's been around for a while, man. And look at all these waifus and husbandos.
There's a gacha for everything.
Well, I never watched Overlord until now, and I don't like gacha games, so...
This is rule G of the internet. There's always a gacha of it.
Okay. So, anything else to say before we move on to episode 2?
No, not really. I think most of my discussion will go into like nerd talk in episode 3, but yeah, I'm good here.
I'm good to move on if you are.
All right. So with that, we're going to move on to episode 2, Floor Guardians.